Hi everyone, welcome to this bonus session on for our cortisol detox program. And this is a functional medicine view with B. Hutchinson because I really wanted to have a natural health practitioner in here to speak into a way that you can feel, okay, I've learned all of this stuff. Where do I go now? Where can I go moving forward to really feel empowered? So B's going to give a brilliant overview for you all and will also give you a place to go to should you need support with testing, because I've had a few people reaching out to say, who do I even go to for some of these tests? It's not easy to get tests for cortisol. You need to have a referral, and even going to someone like a GP, they won't do it unless they think there's a big, heavy, huge cause for you to have to get a cortisol cortisol test. I remember when I was in there with my daughter, this is the second time she's ever been to a GP. We had to get some blood tests run just to see how she was going for our holistic practitioner we see. Anyway, and the GP was like, okay, yep, we can do this, this, and this. We don't even have a GP. So it was just someone I just intuitively went to here in Denmark. And I said, can you please get a test run for her cortisol levels? I just want to see, make sure they're regulated. She's like, oh, we don't normally do that. And blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no problem. Can you put that on the test now, please? I'd like to check my daughter's cortisol levels. She was like, oh, okay. It's like sometimes most people don't have the courage to just, this is what I want, and you need to have this sorted for me. You need to get this done, right? And sometimes, let's face it, it's easier to do it for someone else than ourselves, like our children or, someone we love, someone else we love. So, what I really want you to feel from this cortisol detox program is, yes, have a whole tool belt or a toolbox with things that you can dig into. But the next thing is I want you to know that you have this toolbox and now you know how to apply it, because we've done phase 1 and phase 2 of this detox. And now phase 3 is the integration phase. This is about bringing this into your life in very real ways. And sometimes, my loves, we just need some tests that are run, right? So integrative wellness is the way to go. It's not that easy to find integrative GPs. So when you do find one, hold on to them. And holistic practitioners that you know and love and trust, hold on to them, right? Whether that's a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, Ayurveda, GP, like whatever it is that you love, go to that. And if you have been going to it and it's not working, try something else, my darlings. That's my invitation to you. So we've known B a long, long time, many years. I mean, yeah, most part of these last 11 years we've been in doTERRA. I think it's been a decade, right, B? And
Pretty
we've kind of
close, yeah.
come into we've come into each other's lives because she was living on the other side of Australia. And even now we're still 4 hours apart. But at the end of the day, what you'll get with B is wisdom and knowledge, because she lives what she teaches, and a no-nonsense approach to life. She's one of the most down-to-earth, call a spade people I know. And this is something I love and value and respect so deeply about B. So I hope you get as much out of this as I'm hoping, because this woman is incredible. Listen up, take lots of notes, and there'll be a PDF loaded up to the portal once B works out how to upload that, she was saying. So we'll get that to you shortly. Okay, without further ado, take it away, B.
Cool. Thanks, Vanessa. So this morning I'm going to run you through a little presentation, and I'll talk along the way, and then at the end I'll just shut the screen down just so we can have a bit of a chat and provide you with some markers and some things that you can do yourself. But today's talk is primarily going to focus on different ways that you can look after yourself and different ways that you can know yourself, because it's important to me that you understand that this is your human experiment. So we're all the same species, we're all humans, but all of us operate slightly differently. And even though, like Vanessa was saying, we do find people that can look after us on our health journey, we also have to remember that it's our health and it's our body. So it's important to listen to yourself and to ask questions. And don't necessarily take no for an answer. So I wanted to recap first because I went through the program, so phase 1 and phase 2 of the program that you guys are on at the moment. And there's like over, I'll work out, there's over 22 different recordings so far that you've got access to in that portal. So yeah, you've got heaps of tools and heaps of instructional content. And I want you to just have a think about what it is that you've actually learnt, because like Vanessa was saying, now you actually need to integrate it, which is a really good way to do things. The other thing that I noticed when I was going through it, but was that we talk a lot about cortisol detox, and I just wanted to give you a really simple analogy or a simple way to understand what detox actually is for, because our body naturally detoxes all the time. We sweat, we cry, we blow snot out our nose, we go to the toilet, we're continuously detoxing all the time. But you can't keep adding to a bucket and expect it not to overflow. You need to make sure that you clear the drainage holes out. So there's a few different ways that you can do a detox, and it's important to look after your entire body when you're doing a detox. So I would encourage you to go back to a few of the previous videos and have a look at the nutrition ones, and also the ones that focus on fasting and movement, just to get that detox happening and ready. And I think in one of the videos you talked about dry body brushing as well. If you haven't already got yourself a dry body brush, make sure that you go and grab one of those from a health food shop, or maybe Coles or Woolies might sell them now, don't know. Okay, so I will mention functional medicine in a minute, but I thought that this was more important first. The first thing is to understand that cortisol is a normal thing and it's not actually that bad. So stress is actually necessary for our bodies to change and adapt. The human body has an amazing mechanism within it that it continuously changes and shifts. And as we age, so biologically we're all going to age. The only way we get off the planet is to die. So our body has to naturally go through that progression. But as we age, we are adding extra layers in different things that we need to shift in the body, and that can increase our stress. Remembering, but that we're all different. So we all respond to stress in a different way, and what I can handle is going to be different to what you can handle. But the thing to remember is that cortisol isn't really all that bad. It's just how it gets used and how you cope and manage with it. The probably the best analogy for me about cortisol and stress, so cortisol, stress hormone, the best way to look at this is to think about, there's a story about frogs in a bucket, and the frogs are in a bucket of milk, and the frogs obviously want to get out of the bucket, right? They don't want to drown. But the majority of the frogs in the bucket will stay there and sit there. But there's one frog that decided that it would try its best to get out. And it used the response within its body to start swimming really fast. And it was churning up the milk, churning to get itself out of the bucket. And it was using that cortisol, or it's using that stress to churn and to activate its body to get things going, to run away from the lion, if you like. And what ended up happening was that the milk in the bucket got churned to butter. So it solidified and the frog was able to jump out of the bucket. It was, in that analogy, it's a bit sad because there's other frogs that didn't respond so well and they just laid on the bottom and gave up. But you need to have a look at the stress that's in your life and see it as a gift. There's been some research and some studies done on large groups of people. One of the studies that I read was on 861 people, that the way that they viewed the stress in their life impacted them in a positive way if they could see it as a gift or see it as a thing that will help them to progress to where they want to go, versus seeing the stress as something that's really bad. So just, think of that. So the next time you start getting stressed out, think about a frog in a bucket. It might help you giggle a bit, might lift you up, might also remind you to start churning that little bit more and turn your milk into butter so you can jump out. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention at this point as well is that cortisol has a half-life in our body, and this has been done in testing. The blood test, they did this with blood tests and saliva testing. So there's a few different ways that you can actually test cortisol. But what they found was that the half-life of cortisol, 100 minutes after the stressor, there's 50% of that cortisol still in your body. 8 hours after you experience that stress, there's still like around 6% of cortisol in your body. This is what happens when we start to experience a constant load of stress. So it's not that you can't cope with the stress, it's that with daily life, like Vanessa has mentioned in a few of the other videos, it's the constant barrage of stresses that are building up, and the residue is building up on top of each incident, and that's what you need to detox. So I just thought that was interesting. Now, functional medicine, this is like almost a textbook version, if you like, but functional medicine to me is using everything that we know about the body and everything that we know about food and the environment around us to help our bodies be the best that they can be. So the teachers of functional medicine explain it that it's a combination of biochemistry and physiology in the pursuit of supporting your body in the journey of homeostasis. And homeostasis means balance. For some of us, it's easy to achieve, and then for others, it's not so easy. And I work on the mechanical analogy. So I have a toolbox of tools rather than a tool belt. And I use those tools in a way that helps my body. And all of us have access to similar tools. And that's what you've been learning in your program. So I want to talk to you about questions that I would ask you. So this is what this slide is for. These are questions that I would be talking to you if you were to come to me as a functional medicine practitioner. So someone that's going to start looking at you as a person and explore your life with you in order to help you to understand what it is that is contributing to the way that you are right now. And then we can start to look at the biomarkers. So that's the blood testing or the saliva testing examples. But these are specific questions that we ask, or I ask, around stress, because sometimes it's not just cortisol that's high in your body, there's other hormones that will be there as well. So the first question that I ask is about traumatic events in your past. So I thought about this when I put this presentation together, because I don't want to trigger anyone's cortisol level by making people think about traumatic events that they've had. But this helps you to recognize the feeling within your body. So I'm hoping that after being through 2 phases of this program, you are starting to feel more of your own body and to feel it when it spikes and when it's not responding so well. So if you think about traumatic events that you've experienced in your life, what you will notice within your body is that there will be some sort of change, okay? Better just check the chat. Cool. There will be some sort of...
And I'll monitor the chat for you, B.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Ness. There'll be some sort of physiological feeling in your body, okay? And I know that this has been spoken about in some of the other videos. But what actually happens is when we have a traumatic event, it imprints into our nervous system and can also imprint on the fascia. So it's not just that you want to find yourself an integrative practitioner or a really good practice. There's some general practitioners out there that are starting to go across to the dark side, because that's what they tell me that I do. They're starting to explore a more holistic approach, but they are only trained in one form of medicine, if you like. So go easy on them. Know that they're trying, but yeah, they don't totally get this side of it. But with the traumatic event, it can lock into your fascia. Okay. On top of having those people in your repertoire, you want to bring in a really good massage therapist, or maybe you want to bring in a really good body worker. So it doesn't necessarily have to be painful massage, but somebody that you feel comfortable and safe with, that's able to work with your body while you are processing and releasing what no longer serves you. So if you think about the trauma, you'll feel it somewhere within your body. That's your fascia talking to you, and that's your nervous system talking to you. So that can be part of your cortisol detox, can be to start incorporating regular assisted movement, I would call it, and find someone who's able to help you to clear that in your cells. So with our essential oils, they're brilliant because you're able to shortcut some of the how would you put it? Shortcut some of the psychological processes that people go to when they go to talk therapy. You can use the scent instead to help jump that. And at the same time, you can use scent in your massages to help release the trauma from your fascia too. So that's one of the biggest questions that I have, that I ask people. And traumatic events are not just mental trauma. They're also, if you've had surgery, your body's been cut open. That's actually quite traumatic on the body. And if you watch a movie that involves something similar to what you experienced, you will actually notice, especially with smartwatches and all of that, that your body will have a reaction to that movie, even though your brain's not. So it's, your body's really intelligent, okay? And while I think of that, there's a book that I want to share with you. It's called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's by Bessel van der Kolk. It's a fantastic book. It's a really thick book. It's long, but it will help you with that first point. So that's my first question, and often it'll take me 30 minutes to get through that with people, if not longer. The next thing that I'll ask you is a measurement. So what's your morning blood pressure? The other one is, what is your morning blood glucose? So a lot of people can buy those little machines that measure your glucose. I'll also ask you, what is your morning heart rate? Most watches now will give you your heart rate, and they will also give you your HRV, which is your heart rate variability. I'll ask you those sort of questions as well. The other thing, the other measurement is, what's your blood pressure when you're seated versus what is your blood pressure when you're standing? And then what medications are you on? So a lot of medications will contribute to different physiological effects in your body. Be mindful about how I talk about that. But definitely blood pressure is an important one. So even if you're on a blood pressure medication, you will still have variability in your blood pressure. So you can get a blood pressure monitor from the pharmacy. It's like $60 or anywhere up to $150, depending on which one you want to buy. But you can test yourself by looking at your blood pressure in the morning and when you're seated, and then your blood pressure when you're standing. That tells us the difference in your vestibular system. So that's when you're standing up, for a lot of people, that, especially when you get older, there's a fear of falling that actually is in your body. There's a fear of falling down. So even though when we're a baby, we fall over heaps, as we get older, we're really scared of falling. And that shows up in your blood pressure, which is actually really cool. So it's a good indicator that there's stress going on inside your body that you don't know about. Now, what other question? I'll normally ask you that, okay? That's my biggest screening. The other one is to ask if you've ever been diagnosed with anything in particular around a stress. So that might be adrenal fatigue, or maybe somebody's told you that you've got, I won't use medical terms, but yeah, normally adrenal fatigue is the biggest one, or chronic fatigue is another one that people get told that they have. There's all these different things. Understanding that when you have low cortisol levels, you will experience fatigue. You'll have low mood states. You may have a low libido that coincides with hormonal change anyway. Maybe you have sleep apnea. You have hypotension, which you'll find when you do your blood pressure variability, and you might feel quite dizzy and faint. Any of those indicate that you've got like a lower cortisol issue, those last ones that I just ran through. The other thing that I'll ask you about is your food. So if we jump across to that now, I'll ask you if you crave salt or sugar. If you crave salt, it's a low cortisol indicator. If you crave sugar, it's a high cortisol indicator. I'll ask you if you need coffee to get going in the morning. I'll also ask you if you feel shaky or unstable in between meals. So I know that PJ and Leslie talked about food and their fuel sources, but just pay attention to how you feel. The other thing to notice is around the alarm clock. Are you awake before your alarm clock goes off? And I don't mean that you are in a well-rested state and you just wake yourself up. Are you that hyper vigilant that you know when your alarm is due to set off and you are awake 5 minutes before it goes off? Or are you waking up to check the time to make sure that you don't sleep in? That's a sign of high cortisol levels or high stress levels. The other side is, do you snooze your alarm? Do you have it set up for multiple snoozes? Because if you do, that can be an indicator of that low cortisol level, which I think is pretty cool. Now, if we have a look at high cortisol, it's a pretty big blueprint that you get sent when you first start working with a functional medicine practitioner, like it's pages and pages. So I've just taken out the stress ones. If we look at the high cortisol side of things or the high stress side of things, I'm asking you things like, are you anxious? Do you have trouble sleeping? Have you got insomnia? Have you been told you've got insomnia? Are you experiencing inflammation in your body in any different spots? Most people know what inflammation is now. Do you have an insulin issue? Now, insulin is another blood test marker that you can ask for as well. Do you have high blood pressure? Do you experience weight gain around your midsection? Have you got hair loss? And have you got the brain fog? So when Vanessa was talking at the start, early on, about the weights around your midsection, you know, the foggy brain, not remembering things like you used to, it can be a combination of both high and low cortisol. Okay, you can be running through both at the same time, which is a massive indicator of the HPA dysfunction. So I know you know what that is. I've seen it on one of the other videos. The thing that I find interesting with high cortisol is some of the training that I have is in Ayurvedic medicine. So I studied Ayurveda instead of traditional Chinese medicine, just aligned a bit more with me. In Ayurveda, there are dosha, and an indicator of an imbalance is when we start to focus on that particular dosha and pacifying it. What I find interesting is that when you look at, because talking about cortisol and stress is very Western medicine. So when we're looking at the indicators that match up with high cortisol, that tells me that it's somebody whose pitta dosha is really active. Okay, that's on overdrive. So if I think about men, when they have a really active pitta brain, or their mind is really strong and fiery and hot, the top of their head is hot. They lose their hair. They start to go bald, and can be the grayness as well, is when our head gets stressed. Our pitta increases and our head gets really hot. So the testing or the markers that Western medicine uses for high levels of stress or high levels of cortisol match with what someone experiences if they have a high level of pitta. And pitta is hot. So to pacify that, we want to calm and cool things down. So we use cooling foods and we use cooling drinks, And I wouldn't be doing a head massage with warm oils on someone that's got high cortisol or high stress, because it's only going to agitate it even more. I would probably do warm massage on their feet and start to cool their body down that way. But anyway, that's something that I find pretty interesting. Now, questions for your body. I framed this way so that you could understand that these next sort of questions are more actually geared towards blood tests or markers, okay? So there's a handful, and I will talk more about the Dutch test in a minute. But the best way, so you can self-analyze with all of those questions before, and I will put them on the PDF, or I'll make it shorter, but they'll be on the PDF so that you can tick a box. You can tick and flick and go, yeah, okay, today I am experiencing high levels of stress. I match all of these symptoms. Go across to your toolbox and have a look at a key daily habit that you haven't done yet, or maybe do the body scan meditation. Like, that's how you can put those two together. But if you're at the point where you want to actually know what is happening on the inside of your body, there's a few things you can do. The first thing, like Vanessa said at the start, you can ask your general practitioner to include cortisol in your blood test. Just go get a heap of blood tests done and ask for a full blood count, definitely full blood count, but also ask for your kidney function, your liver function, your thyroid function, because all these things talk, they all interconnect. Your thyroid function, and you want to know not just your TSH, but you want to know your T3 and your T4 so that we can work out ratios, which then tell us different things. But then you can ask them for, I would ask for 4 other things, okay? I would ask for my cortisol levels. I would also ask for my insulin, fasting insulin. I would also then ask for my histamine, so they can test that. That can be done in your bloods as well. And then you have a choice. You can either ask for CRP, which is C-reactive protein, to be tested. So that's an inflammatory marker. Or you can ask for, ask them to do your vitamin panel. So that's your vitamin D, magnesium, and B12. Normally they'll check for, or your B vitamins. All of those things, when you go to a general practitioner and you ask for those tests, if you get a pushback, the best way that I have found to speak to them is to let them know that this is your baseline. You are asking for these tests because you want to be actively involved in looking after your own health and wellness. And these are the tests that you are getting done now as your baseline, and you're going to ask for them again in another 12 months, for example. Like, it's up to you how you want to do this. But they're the basics, okay? You can, like I said, you can ask for cortisol. You can ask for insulin, fasting insulin. A lot of them will do that now anyway because they want to sell you diabetes medication or a weight loss drug. You can ask for C-reactive protein, and you can ask for, definitely ask for your histamine or homocysteine levels, either or. Now, going to cortisol, before I jump to the next slide, double check this. Yep. So jumping across to cortisol, the other one is a salivary test. So you can do your saliva cortisol testing, and it's actually a little bit more accurate than serum tests. So serum is a blood test. The reason for that is because there are normally 4 points across the day where you measure your saliva. So knowing that cortisol peaks first thing in the morning, like around 8 o'clock, and then it's at its lowest when you're asleep. Doing the saliva test can often be a really good way to see what is happening on the inside. Again, you should be able to ask your general practitioner for this. And the reason I'm saying this is because you can ask your GP and it's free, because it's not free, but it's done through the Medicare system in most cases. And if you're not asking for it every week, which you shouldn't do anyway, they shouldn't really be saying no, but I know they do. So salivary cortisol is another one. And then the test that I'll talk to you about in a minute is called the Dutch test. The Dutch test is highly recommended for women, and especially when you want to look at hormones. So before I jump to that, I'm just going to give you some actual physical figures to look at in terms of knowing your stress. And these are the first three are ones that you can do yourself. So you want your morning blood glucose to be between 4.5 to 5.5. You want your morning resting heart rate. So do this before you have a coffee or whatever you do to jack yourself up. Okay, this is your resting heart rate. Ideally, that is between 55 to 65. And your morning blood pressure should be around this, okay? So blood pressure is a sticky area because as we age, it makes natural sense that your blood pressure would increase because the vessels through which your blood travels have changed due to wear and tear. So therefore, your blood pressure is going to read slightly higher. But ideally, this is average. Your morning blood pressure should be around 115 as your top level, over 55 to 70 as your bottom level. So there are three figures that you can do yourself. The other thing that I want to give you is the functional medicine range for cortisol. So when we look at cortisol levels in your blood, so you go to a doctor, you get blood tests done. Sorry, go to a general practitioner, you get blood tests done. They're going to have a look at your blood tests, and then they look at these ranges next to their blood test, and they say to you, oh, you're fine, you're within normal range. That's not good. Why? Because normal range is made up of people that are not normal. The normal range is made up of people that they've gotten access to create this average. So that's normally people that are unwell, that are visiting the doctor heaps, that they've got ready access to. And over the last few years, they've been increasing the bottom level, the bottom range, or they're increasing what is now normal so that people aren't noticing when they get unwell. But anyway, so the functional range for cortisol is bottom level of 276, and it's nmol per litre. So 276 to a top range of 414. It's very specific, but when you go to a functional medicine practitioner or even an integrative health practitioner, they're both similar. When you look at that range, it's very specific because if you have low levels of cortisol, there's something else going on in your body, and we want to pick it up way before it gets to a flag at a general practice level. And if it's high, it's high. So I've had people come to me with cortisol in 500-600 units, like that's the range. And that's really high, but their general practitioner told them that it was normal. So I just wanted to make sure that you've got that window there, you know, the range to work within. So this is the end of my little slideshow. I'll switch back just to our faces in a minute and have a chat to you about a couple of other things, and then I'm done. But I want you to see this as the start of your own human experiment. 2.5 years ago, I started my own personal human experiment. So I've been in this game now, working with the human body for about 22 years. I've just started to put it all together. And in the last 10 years, I have honed in and focused on functional medicine. Just when I got into it, there wasn't that label. It was weird because I was medical student, but at the same time, a health science student, and at the same time, studying Ayurvedic medicine and putting it all together. But 2.5 years ago, I realized that my system had changed, my body had changed, and I wasn't getting any answers from anybody that I was going to see. So I started my own human experiment. We have to be very mindful of what we put into our body through our mouth, through our nose, through our skin, and through our blood. And I want you to consider that every time you go to have a vaccination of any kind, or any time that you go to have a infusion, because I know a lot of people get vitamin infusions. Anytime you're going to get something put into your body or done to your body, you have to understand that it's going to change your body. So you need to become mindful of that. So get yourself a diary, get yourself a journal, make it look however you want to look, but that is your science project because it's your human experiment. Get your blood markers done, talk to your general practitioner, tell them that you want to be actively engaged in looking after your own health. And this is the minimum standard that you expect in terms of your blood tests and your test results. Go buy your own equipment. So go get your own blood pressure machine, get your little blood oxygen saturation thing that goes on your finger. Get a glucose monitor. You can get the constant glucose monitor, which is stick on your arm, or you can get the diabetic type 1 that takes your blood measure. And yeah, have a little bit of fun. So I'm just going to finish that, stop sharing, go back to our faces. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to mention just before I ask if anyone's got any questions is if you have no luck with your general practitioner in terms of getting your bloods done or your testing done, you can use 2 private companies that I would suggest because they give you the results really, really well. One of them is I Screen, so the letter I and the word screen. You don't need to be a practitioner to be able to order your own bloods. So you can actually request your own pathology. And there are places all around Australia and some places overseas where you can go and have your own tests done. When you receive your test results back, they are checked by a medical doctor and they're checked at that company level. So iScreen is one of them and iMedical is the other one. So it's the letter I and then the word screen, or the letter I and the word medical. Both of those organisations provide really good feedback to you and they don't interfere with your health journey. Okay, so they're not going to offer you opinion. They're just going to say, here are your test results. This is high, this is low, and leave you with it. And then you've got access to your own test results. You don't have to worry about going to see the doctor to ask for them. You've got no stress with that. They will also do gut tests. They will do Helicobacter. They do everything that you can think of that you want tested. You can get it through these guys. You just have to pay for it. That's the other part of it. Okay. So it's one thing to go to a general practice. You're going to get it for free or via Medicare. But if you go along to iScreen or iMedical, you can get your bloods, but you have to pay for them. They're not expensive, but yeah, it's another option. Okay, so if you're not getting the results that you want, you can go down that track. What else I want you to know? There's 16 different parts of the body that get impacted by stress. There's the thymus, inflammatory, thyroid, your sleep, neural relaxation, brain health, your neurotransmitters, gut health, blood glucose, fat tissue or adipose tissue, your heart is impacted, all your hormones, not just cortisol. There's oxidative stress. Your healing mechanism gets impacted, hypertrophy kicks in, and you've got a mineral issue as well. If we go back to all of the other videos and you have a look at the ones that talk about VMG in particular, I am a big fan of that product and I'm looking forward to when it becomes available in Australia because I've got a lot of clients that I know will take that straight away. 3 reasons. 1, it's a powder form, which means that it will convert to a liquid, so it is more bioavailable. As soon as we drink it, it goes in because it's sitting in your mouth. So that is the best way for you to get medicine into your body because you can't always trust your gut to be working the right way. If you can hold the medicine in your mouth, it will start to work immediately. The other good way is up your nose, but I don't want you snorting it. I also like VMG because it has adaptogenic herbs in it. When you have high levels of stress, normally the first herb that gets put in there for you is ashwagandha. That is in VMG. So I was impressed when I read the back of that. I was like, yeah, this is good. Because the first thing that I will normally do when I get shown a new supplement is pull it apart. I am the cynic. So I go to have a look for what is wrong, and I go straight to all of those sort of extra ingredients and go, no, that's going to mess people up, or no, that's no good. I haven't been able to do that with BMG yet. It's good. The other reason why I like it is because you can travel with it. Okay, so in my little kit bag, I don't drag my blood pressure monitor around with me everywhere. I do often, but I'm not that big a nerd. When I'm traveling, I don't take it with me. But I do take 3 basic things with me. I travel with VMG when I've got it, so I don't have it at the moment. I've got Lifelong Vitality instead. I will travel with a bottle of lemon oil because lemon in the morning is important for my body. My liver needs extra support, so I use that. And I will travel with frankincense because frankincense is good for my brain and it is good for the inflammation in my body. So they're my 3 things that I always travel with, no matter where I'm going and what I'm doing. But you can bulk it out and use whatever you like. Now, I'm just going to double check my notes, Ness, and then I think I'm actually done. People can ask me questions if they want. Oh, yeah. One other tip is if you are noticing that you need to get up during the evening to urinate a lot, like you've got that, it's waking you up because you've got to go to the toilet, or you're having real bladder issues of an afternoon, or maybe you're going through a period where you've got, what do they call it, urgency. Have a think about drinking sage tea of an evening because that will actually help your bladder to settle and it will give you that little bit more bladder control. And pay attention to the Chinese body clock or the TCM body clock. It's a really cool little picture that you can find on the internet. Take note of when you wake up during the evening and then go and look at that clock the next day and see on that picture what organ does that correlate to and what is happening inside your body. And yeah, that's it. That's my presentation. Have a bit of fun. When I do the PDF, I'll give you contact details if you want. Be strong, be confident, and know that you are conducting your own human experiment, because we all are, and you want your baseline and you want to work with your doctor because otherwise they're never going to learn. So the more of you guys that are getting in there and pushing back on them and saying, hey, no, I need this test because this test will help me, the better. So that's it.
Gosh, so good. Thank you so much. I got so much out of that. I was typing notes. So when you have your one-to-one sessions, like when you come to Albany and in Busso, is this what you're doing?
Yeah, so when I travel, I do this along with body work. So when I was talking about the
Yeah.
fascia and the release side of the fascia, I'm often picking someone's leg up, moving their body around, adjusting their ribs, like doing all of those sort of things. And at the same time, they're talking to me about the traumatic events. So I'm like, oh, cool. Yep. Okay. That's locked there. That's locked there. And then when we're finished, we're talking about the mind-gut connection and all of the other stuff that they give me on their form.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, Leslie, I think you asked about sage tea versus Spanish sage. It's actually 2 different things. So, when you distill, you take a leaf and you distill it into essential oil, you're not actually receiving the same medicinal benefits as using the herb. So, the herb itself, sorry, for instance, like I was using it for perimenopause and menopausal support for like hot flashes, and I didn't get night sweats, but I was up and down a lot with hot flashes, and then every time I'd get a hot flash, I'd have to pee because I'm drinking water in between because I'm so parched, right? The tea itself can also help with mild incontinence. I don't know about full-blown incontinence, but I know it can help with that. And also it's anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial, which you'll get with the essential oil, right? So the tea is going to help the bladder because of its astringency, right? So that's how it's going to help that. And it also has phytoestrogenic support from memory,
Yeah, it
sage tea.
does.
It does, yeah. So
Yeah.
that'll help balance the hormones. So if you remember in the first or one of the earlier Zooms that I did on this cortisol detox, I said so many people are so hooked in on looking at estrogen levels, progesterone, testosterone, and they're forgetting that cortisol is sitting very high up. I think second only to oh my God, it just jumped out of my head. Anyway, it'll come back when I'm not concentrating. There's another hormone there, but then cortisol is pretty much second to that in terms of regulation for body. So when you're looking at cortisonal support, you're also looking at, a full body picture. So that's why the tea will support in a different way. So you don't need much, like 1 or 2 cups. That's it. That's all you need of the sage tea.
There's
Now,
so many herbs that people can use that are so beneficial to the body. And
yeah.
if you think about what Dr. Hill says too, when they first introduced Copaiba or Cohiba, he was saying that the pharmaceutical companies were trying to find the one chemical component, remember? They wanted the one thing so that they could then bastardize it and turn it into a drug. But you can't use just one thing. You have to use the whole lot because that's a synergistic effect. Plants, as in the herbs, are the same.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the essential oil, Leslie, then we have incredible brain support, so cognitive functional support with this. So can you see how we're 2 different pathways, right? So the Spanish sage will take us, it is a nervine and adaptogenic as well, the Spanish sage. So you can definitely use that for stress regulation. Nervous system regulation, emotional regulation. I'm obsessed with it as well, Leslie. Oh my gosh. So the oil itself, though, when we're talking about this, you could try, taking it and combining the Spanish sage with something like cypress and massaging that over the bladder area, over the abdomen area, up the spine, on the feet before sleep, because it's gonna relax the pelvis anyway, right? And any tension that lives in that area. And then the cypress, and you could add juniper berry as well, like that diuretic thing to help support with that, over urination. So anyway, I hope that helps with deciphering between the two. I wanted to put this on the recording because it was a question in there. What we'll do is now we'll turn off the recording and we'll go to questions with B, any Q&A that you need. Thank you so much, B. I got so much out of it. Like I said, I took a ton of notes. And I think I'll be hitting you up in WhatsApp for seeing you when you're next down this way.
Yep, cool.
Thanks so much for being here, everyone. And those watching the recording, I hope that you've received as much out of this as we have. It's been incredible. We'll have all the ways to contact B in the portal. Do you do online services as well, B?
Yep, so I've just started to increase that and I'll be taking new clients as of June for more online work.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Thanks.